According to PokeBeach, our next English set will release on January 29th in Pokemon TCG Live. Currently unnamed, this will be a special set mostly filled with reprints of cards from the past year or two featuring new arts alongside a footful of new cards sprinkled in. This will be the last set featuring I block cards before we transition to the J blocker cards in our next main set out in late March. Thanks to the reveals of Japan's Mega Dream EX and Start Deck 100 Battle Collection a couple days ago, we have an idea of what those new cards in our first two 2026 sets will be. Just keep in mind that if it has an I in the bottom left, it's likely coming out here in January. A J in the bottom left, meanwhile, likely means it'll be in the March set. Confusing, I know, but this is what happens when the Pokemon Company decides to force 6 sets on us every single year. While there's some new Megas to get to, easily the best new card is going to be PokePad, a J-Block card. With Nest Ball set to rotate in March, we need a new Pokemon Search card to go along with Buddy Puffin and Ultra Ball. This is absolutely that. The effect simply reads, search your deck for a Pokemon without a rule box, reveal it, and put it into your hand. You don't understand how good that is. It's basically Level Ball on steroids. I know you don't want to hear this, but a PokePad is the only way to stop your terminal period. Also, PokePad makes Dragapult better. Play it, go grab your choice of a Dreepy or Jacloak or Duskull or Dusclops or Dusknoir. And what about Slowking? PokePad allows it to get any attacker from deck, then stack it on top with Academy at night. Obviously, things will be rough for Slowking when Xocti rotates in March with the rest of the G-Block cards, but PokePad gives it a fighting chance post-rotation. There's not much else to say about PokePad. It'll probably be the #1 best new card in whatever set it releases in, and a lot of decks will be running 4 copies. Sticking with the consistency theme, we have the new Dragonair, which has an I in the bottom left, meaning it should be out in the January set. In case you forgot, Mega Dragonite EX was already revealed. I've been calling it a worse Mega Magnetric EX up until this point. My opinion hasn't changed all that much. I mean, they do the same amount of damage, except Magnetric has the choice of discarding energy all on a stage 1. But the Dragonair helps tip the multi-scales a little more in Dragonite's favor. Provided Dragonair has energy on it, the Flying Blue Snake can go get any evolution Pokemon from deck. That makes Dragonite much more consistent, effectively adding an evolution incense each turn. Which is important because you'll be relying on Electric to accelerate energy to Dragonite each turn, as Ryuno Glide forces a discard of 2 energy. And in tandem with Dragonite's switching ability plus an Air Balloon or Free Retreater, you can easily get the Mega Dragon back in the active, ready to attack again. Just try to ignore the fact that it also requires a water energy in addition to 2 lightning. I'm sure that won't be a problem. Speaking of electric, Mega Eelektross EX was announced, and it's going to rely heavily on its pre-evo if it's ever going to be a thing. At first glance, the card's underwhelming. Split Bomb only does 60 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Most basics these days have 70 hit points, putting them out of range. And if they're as paranoid as For the Win is when he thinks he notices the camera I hid in his sock drawer, they might have Shaman, rendering Spirit Bomb useless against single prizers. The main attack here is Disaster Shock. For 2 lightning, it deals a disappointing 190 damage. But if you discard 2 lightning from Eelektross, their active is paralyzed. Unfortunately, paralysis isn't the best status condition when combined with a 3-prize attacker. Shock Lock really only works when you don't take knockouts, effectively trapping them the entire game until they give up. By dealing damage with paralysis, eventually you take a knockout. And when you do, they can use a Ceruledge or Golden Go or Raging Bolt to one-shot your Mega. Plus, we live in a world with Jet Energy and Switch and Prime Catcher and Turo Scenario. And don't forget that at least on TCG Live, everyone has a free Mega Lucario EX deck. Eelektross is weak to fighting. Yeah, that's not gonna go well for the Eel. You know what, I was trying to convince myself that this card might be good when it likely releases in January. Instead, I convinced myself that this might be a worse Mega than Venusaur. In an attempt to make Mega Eelektross playable, we're getting a card called Canary, which has nothing to do with a coal mine. By discarding a card from hand, like a Lightning Energy, Ino Jr. lets you get any 4 Lightning-type Pokemon from deck, be they basic, Stage 1s or Stage 2s. While Canary and Miraidon EX should exist in Standard together for about 2 months, once Miraidon's gone, this is the best consistency supporter for Lightning decks. Though, with the additional losses of Nest Ball and Electric Generator and Iron Hands due to rotation, if you want to play a Lightning deck in 2026, it's gonna be rough. You're basically forced to play either Electric or Magneton for energy acceleration. In that case, why not run Mega Eelektross in the deck? Well, probably because it sucks. No, Mega Magnetric's likely going to be the best Lightning deck next year, unless Joltik Box can find a way around the loss of Iron Hands. And Magnetric's going to love Canary, not just because cats love to chase birds, Being able to Canary turn 1 for say 2 basics plus an electric and a magnetic is extremely powerful. I just worry about how Lightning decks are going to do without the extra prizes Iron Hands typically provides. Because while Mega Magnetric can deal 330 damage, it does give up 3 prizes while also being one-shot by Mega Lucario. Basically, Canary awesome, Lightning decks maybe not so much. The other newly revealed Mega is Mega Charizard YEX. Boasting the same 360 hit points and fire typing as Mega Charizard XEX, this one's a bit more disappointing. For 2 fire and a colorless, Plosion Y forces you to discard 3 energy from Charizard. When you do, it deals 280 damage to any one of your opponent's Pokemon. Pair it with Oricorio EX and fulfilling the energy cost is a breeze. But there's a major problem with the attack you may have forgotten about. Terra Pokemon. As a reminder to anyone who's made an oopsie when trying to snipe one, they have a built-in bench barrier. So not only is 280 damage coming up short of knocking out a Dragapult EX, if the damn thing's on the bench, it can't even touch it. 280 is enough to deal with Cerule GX, but again, if it's not in the active, Mega Man turns into MC Hammer because you can't touch it. What Mega Charizard Y has going for it is the fact that Mega Charizard X exists. Since Charizard EX and Earthen Vessel will be gone from Standard by the time Megazard Y is out when the J block begins, Oricorio and Fire Breather will be extremely important. We're also losing Superior Energy Retrieval and the 70 hit point Charmander, meaning Charizard decks next year will look quite a bit different than they do today. Still, 1 copy of Zard Y in a deck can deal with everybody on the bench, while 2 copies of Zard X takes big one-hit KOs against their active. I'm not sure I 100% believe in this card yet, but once we know more about our March set, my tune might change like a cricket. Hopefully a card they spell with 3 C's when it comes out in English, Thick Scale is more support for Dragon Pokemon. If you'll recall, I mused that our January set might help Dragon types due to Mega Dragonite likely being the headliner, which in turn would buff Dragapult. Luckily, I don't think this does that because it's so meta dependent. Slap the Thick Scale on a Dragon Pokemon, now it takes 50 less damage from Grass, Fire, Water, and Lightning types. Obviously it's taking cues from the main games where dragons resist all those types. Ignoring the fact that we're entering a world where Dragapult is going to want to play Jamming Tower to bump Battle Cage, and Tool Scrapper and Blowtorch get rid of tools, I don't think Thick Scale is good right now. Aside from Cerule GX, who can deal 370 damage to a Dragapult if necessary, and Mega Charizard XEX, who can deal 900 damage if it wants to, there aren't many top-tier threats featuring those types. Even Hydrapple won't really care about Thick Scale because its damage can scale to a high number. Maybe Dragonite plays a single copy to shore up certain matchups, but I think if you're putting a tool on Dragonite, it's going to be Hero's Cape. Or maybe Sacred Charm. Again, it all depends on how the meta settles post-rotation in 2026. A rotation which is going to be pretty crazy with top decks like Gardevoir, Charizard, Goldengo, and more leaving the format. We're also getting our typical underwhelming Draw 3 rival supporter next year in the form of Urbane. If you have no idea who Urbane is, it's the male version of Tawny. So depending on which gender you select at the start of ZA, you might have never encountered them. You'll also find a new Raichu and Pikachu at some point next year, with both being misses. And I'm not talking about my ex-wife who just got remarried to someone who plays Yu-Gi-Oh!, which means they're a huge nerd because that game requires you to know how to read. I mean, I guess 150 isn't horrible, but at that point you're 2 or 3 shotting things, opening yourself up to getting Monkey Doried straight to hell. Now, before you freak out, yes, our January set will include several reissues. Note that I said reissue, not reprint. Japan's Mega Dream EX set includes 193 cards before secret rares, but the vast majority is just old cards from the H&I blocks. Because they're reissues, their legality won't reset. So don't worry, Dragapult EX will still rotate in March 2027. And although it's not confirmed for our English set yet, don't be surprised if we get several different reverse holo patterns on cards. Meaning scalpers will have to open thousands of packs to get a fraction of a master set. Before I finish myself off, it has to be noted that there's a Pokemon called Politoed and its toads are always out for free. Also, these next 2 cards are gym promos in Japan. All you need to know about gym promos is that they take anywhere from 6 months to a year to release in English, and they could either be included in a set or given their own box. There's no Mr. Rhyme or reason to how we get them, they just arrive one day and we can touch them all over. With Krookodile EX, it may Saw's buck the trend of gym promos kinda sucking. The first attack is mostly a throwaway, dealing 80 damage and preventing retreat. Strong Bite is what could be a difference maker. For 2 darkness and a colorless, it only does 140. Attach a tool though, and that's now 280. There's a ton of great tools in Standard like Maximum Belt and Hero's Cape and Binding Mochi, meaning Krookodile can clear 300 damage if necessary. Plus, the energy requirement is taken care of by Toxtricity. I'm not going to overhype Krookodile because we all know how poorly Mega Gengar EX has gone so far. But this card definitely has potential so long as you can fill up your bench with 2 Toxtricity, 2 Krookodile, a Munkidori, and a Pheasantipity. Yeah, I think I'm starting to remember why pairing Toxtricity with a Stage 2 EX is difficult. On the plus side, there's a couple other Krookodile in Standard, meaning the 10 people in the world who have Krookodile as their favorite Pokemon will be able to build a deck featuring 3 different ones. Then we have Adversity Insurance. The concept here is that if your active is weak to your opponent's active and gets hit by an attack, you can draw 3 cards. Seems okay when you first think about it. For example, if they hit into your Solrock with Badoo, you draw 3. Unfortunately, we already have something called Lucky Helmet. It draws 1 less card, but it can be attached to anybody and activates when anybody hits into your anybody, removing the need for weakness. So yeah, Adversity Insurance is kinda useless. To put in perspective just how long it can take gym promos to release in English, we're still waiting on Lapras EX, Hop's Pinsirchin EX, Team Rocket's Kangaskhan EX, and Team Rocket's Hypnosis device, which might be thrown into the January set. Or like Quagsire V, we'll never get them. Like I said, gym promo releases make no sense. To try to simplify things, these are the new eye block cards shown off, which should be included in the special set releasing on January 29th. If Mega Eelektross does indeed come out in that set, expect a new Dynamo and Electric, even though the ones from Black Gold and White Flare are what you'll probably end up using. Then we have these new J-Block cards, which should be included in the next main set releasing at the end of March, alongside standard format rotation, removing all the G-Block cards. Just keep in mind that these are all educated guesses, and the Canadian education system didn't teach me about proper foot care. So some eye block cards like Krookodile EX might not come out until mid-2026. And some of those J-Block cards could be saved for our second main set of 2026, which will probably be out in May. With all that fun stuff out of the way, what do you think about Mega Eelektross and Mega Charizard? Why? Type your answer in the comments. Or if you're too busy, just give the video a thumbs up and I'll know you agree with my expert takes.